They told me the second male lead would hate me. That he'd be cruel, cold, and calculated. That he'd see me the way the world does a jealous, disposable girl rigged into someone else's love story. A foil. A stepping stone. A joke. They didn't say he'd show up early. Or that he'd look at me not with disdain but with something worse. Recognition. When I first saw him walk through the academy gate's black uniform crisp, expression unreadable, and that lazy, arrogant posture that made half the girls lose their mind's eye froze. Not because he was beautiful he was, or because he had power he did, but because I knew exactly who he was. And he knew me too. No one else noticed the way his gaze lingered on me as if he already knew how this story ended. Not the heroine, with her glittering smile and perfectly rehearsed innocence. Not the first male lead, who'd already started ignoring me like he was supposed to. But the second male lead he didn't follow the script. He came straight to me, sat beside me in class, picked apart the heroine's little acts of kindness with surgical precision. He didn't bully me, he studied me, and when he finally spoke, his voice was like a loaded gun. They said I'd break you, but you look like someone who wants to burn this place down. He wasn't wrong, because if I was going to be the villain, I might as well become a real one. They named her Aria. In this twisted little story world we lived in, she was the heroine. Golden hair, golden heart, golden everything. People adored her. Professors praised her. Boys tripped over themselves just to carry her books. And me? I was the girl she forgave. The one who used to be mean until Aria reformed me with her kindness. A neat, digestible narrative for everyone else to swallow. But it wasn't real. Aria didn't reform me. She ruined me. Quietly. Sweetly. With a smile that made people think she was the victim. She made sure my seat was always accidentally taken. She corrected my answers out loud in front of the class. She told the teachers I was struggling emotionally so they'd pity me and keep me out of the spotlight. And worst of all, she made me apologize. Over and over again. For existing. For speaking. For not being her. I was never meant to win. Not in this story. The first male leadily was her perfect match. Tall, honorable, aloof. I used to like him. Once. Before he realized liking me didn't fit the script. Before he slowly, coldly, drifted to Aria's side like everyone else. I became the ghost girl. The shadow behind the heroine. Present only to make her shine brighter. Then came him, Kai. The second male lead. The character that wasn't supposed to arrive until mid-semester, according to the storyline we all seemed trapped in. The one they whispered about in the dorm's dangerous, brilliant, cruel. A perfect antagonist. And just like me, perfectly expendable. Except he didn't play his part either. Kai was sharp where Eli was soft. Cold where Aria was warm. He spoke rarely, but when he did, it was with precision like cutting glass. And from day one, he gravitated toward me. No one could understand why. Neither could I, at first. We didn't speak for the first 3 days. But on the 4th, he passed me a note in the library that said, "You're not a side character, you're a weapon." I still remember the way my hands shook reading that. Because maybe he was the first person who saw me not as a failed version of Aria, not as a villain to be reformed, but as someone real, someone angry, someone who remembered every subtle cruelty dressed as kindness. Kai didn't ask me to trust him. He didn't need to. He simply looked at me like I already knew what came next. And I did. Because in this story, if I was going to be the villain, and he was going to be the threat, then maybe we didn't have to destroy each other. Maybe we could destroy her instead. It happened the day of the student council election. A tradition at the academy, more of a stage play than a real vote. Aria always won, of course. She gave the prettiest speeches, cried at just the right moment, and smiled like she was doing the world a favor just by breathing. The professors already printed her name on the ballots. The outcome was inevitable. Or it was. Until Kai stood up. He wasn't even running. No one expected him to. He didn't talk in class, didn't engage in clubs, and didn't care about school politics. So when he walked to the front of the room cool and silent, With every eye magnetized to his presence, it was like the air in the auditorium changed. He held the mic like it bored him. "I nominate someone else," he said. A pause. A hush. "I nominate her." He looked right at me. "Lena." The silence exploded into noise. People whispered, stared, gasped. Even Eli, perfect, predictable Eli, stood up in protest. "She's not even on the committee," he said. "This is a serious process." Kai tilted his head, lazily amused. "So serious you already chose the winner?" Arya looked devastated. Like someone had kicked her puppy in front of a camera crew. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and she glanced at me with that hurt expression she wore so well. But I didn't blink. Because I finally understood what Kai was doing. He wasn't asking them to vote for me. He was forcing them to look at me, to break the script, to make Arya bleed socially, publicly, symbolically for the first time. Later, when the chaos died down, and the teachers ruled the nomination invalid, I found Kai waiting by the garden wall. "That was stupid," I said. He shrugged. "She looked scared." And she did. That was the first time I realized we could win, not by playing the game, but by tearing the whole thing apart. After the nomination stunt, everything changed. Not Publiaria still ruled the school like a sugar-dusted tyrant, but in the shadows, there was a shift. People began watching me again, not with pity or dismissal, but with confusion, curiosity, and fear. That's what happens when the person everyone's afraid of starts standing beside someone they already decided to hate. Kai didn't need to tell me his plan. He let it unfold naturally, like a puzzle I was always meant to solve. Step 1, break the illusion. We started small. A quiet correction here, a calculated truth there. Like when Arya accidentally spilled tea on my sketchbook during art class. "Oh no," she gasped. "I didn't see it there." "Lena, She moved it herself," Kai said, loud enough for the whole class to hear. "Watch you turn your head first." Everyone froze. Arya looked at him like he'd slapped her. I watched her tremble for the first time. That's when I realized her power came from belief. People believed she was kind, helpless, and honest. All we had to do was show them something different. Step 2, make them doubt her. We planted the seeds in every interaction. Not lice truths with teeth. Kai would intercept her before she could work her sweet-talking magic on teachers. I began accidentally leaving my phone on record whenever she confronted me. The recordings leaked. Clips of Arya whispering venom between smiles. Her voice was sharp. Her words are calculating. People began to wonder, was she really the sweet girl they thought she was? Or was she playing them? Step 3, isolate her. Eli tried defending her. Of course he did. That's what heroes do, charge into battle without asking if the cause is worthy. But Chi-Chi tore him down with words so precise they felt like scalpels. "You think protecting someone means ignoring who they are," he said to Eli in front of everyone. "That's not loyalty. That's blindness." The crowd didn't cheer, but they listened. And Eliaria's one unwavering shield started to hesitate. And through it all, Kai and I grew close. Not romantically. Not yet. But there was always tension. Always. Something sharp and intimate, like we were two blades forged to cut the same enemy. I saw sides of him no one else did. He didn't just hate Arya. He understood her. Too well. "Girls like her always win," he told me once, sitting beside me on the rooftop. "They cry, and the world bleeds for them. They smile, and everyone forgets what they did. But they don't get to keep doing that forever." I studied with him. "Who hurt you?" He gave a small, joyless smile. Someone who wore the same smile she does. I didn't press. I didn't have to. Because I understood. We were both survivors. Not of knives or fist butt, of people who convinced the world they were the victim while destroying us slowly, smiling the whole time. We didn't say it, but we both knew what came next. Step 4. Take her crown. The Winter Showcase was coming. The Academy's biggest event in arts and performance gala, judged by alumni and sponsors. It was where the top students earned recommendations for elite universities, internships, and scholarships. Arya was set to star, of course. But this time, I was going to take the lead. With Kai directing the entire production secretly, behind the scenes we rewrote the script. Made it darker. Real. Honest. I wasn't just playing a character. I was the character. And on the night of the performance, when the lights hit my face and I told a story about a girl who smiled while pulling the strings to destroy another's life, the auditorium went silent. People weren't clapping for Arya anymore. They were watching me. And when it ended, when the crowd erupted and my name was shouted instead of heard, Zarya stood at the edge of the stage like a ghost. The crown was slipping. The golden girl was cracking. And I wasn't sorry. Not even a little. It was supposed to be a victory. The performance had ended. The applause had echoed like thunder. And Arya hadn't shown her face in 3 days. I should have felt powerful. Untouchable. Instead, I felt watched. It started with the envelope. Slipped under my dorm door. Unmarked. Inside. Photos. Dozens of them. Black and white. Time-stamped. Me. And Kai. Talking in the shadows. Passing notes. Sitting too close. The library. The rooftop. The hallway outside the music room. All taken without our knowledge. And one more, at the bottom CI. Alone in the admin office. Leaning over the secretary's desk. Holding a familiar manila folder. My file. I stared at it for a long time. Then, I went to find him. He didn't deny it. Didn't even look surprised. You went through my record? I demanded. Kai leaned back in his chair like he'd been waiting for this. I needed to know if you'd break. Break? He met my eyes. Calm. Cold. If you had any weakness left for her. If there was even a sliver of you that still wanted her approval. The room spun. So all this getting close to me was just a test? He didn't flinch. It was necessary. My voice cracked. You used me. He stood, finally. Slowly. No. I chose you. But I had to be sure you'd choose me back. I walked away before I said something I couldn't take back. But later that night, as I stared at the envelope again, one thing became painfully clear. This wasn't a story about a villain and her ally. This was a story about two people who didn't know how to trust but were about to burn everything down together anyway. I didn't speak to Kai for 3 days after the file incident. Not because I was angry. Anger would have been easier. It was something colder. Something hollow. Like I just realized I was standing beside someone who knew how to dismantle me piece by piece. And might still choose to. I kept showing up, though. To the meetings. To the rehearsals. To the silent war we were still waging against Arya's world of painted smiles. Because I'd already stepped too far in to back out. And because, in some sick, broken part of me, I understood Kai's reasoning. People like us didn't get to trust blindly. We measured people by how likely they were to betray us. The real crack came a week later at the Scholarship Council interview. It was supposed to be Arya's win. Everyone knew it. She had recommendation letters from every department head. She wore white, of course, like innocence personified. She even baked cookies for the board. And still, she lost. Because Someone Anonymous naturally had submitted a portfolio of her academic record with suspicious inconsistencies. Essay phrasing repeated from obscure journals. Science fair data duplicated from a foreign university's research. Minor enough to be excused, but enough to raise eyebrows. Enough to disqualify her. The judges didn't yell. They smiled. Thank you. Informed her she'd been dropped from consideration. And just like that, the girl who never lost tasted failure. She left the interview shaking, not crying no, not yet. But the mask was cracking. Later, I found her in the music room, sitting in the dark. You really hate me that much? She asked, not looking at me. I leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. You made everyone believe I was a monster. I made people believe what you were already acting like. That stung. Because there had been a time-just one when I wanted to be her friend. Before she decided that wasn't shiny enough to stand beside her. I don't know why I stayed. Maybe I wanted to see if she'd say something real. Maybe I was hoping she'd apologize, but she didn't. Instead, she stood up, face calm, voice sharp. You think you've won. But he'll turn on you too, Lena. That's what people like Kai do. They destroy things. That's all they know. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I left her alone in the dark. But the words stuck. That night, I dreamed about fire. Not the kind that burns buildings. The kind that scorches people from the inside out. Kai didn't celebrate her downfall. He never did. He called it progress. He called it necessary. But I saw the tension in his shoulders, the way he flinched when I touched his hand during rehearsal. He was slipping into something colder, something unreachable. What's next? I asked him one night on the rooftop. He didn't answer right away. Then, softly, she still has the alumni vote, the legacy ball. Right. The final event of the year. Formal, prestigious, and heavily weighted in determining the Academy's graduate rankings. The winner of the honorary award became the face of the Academy, publicly endorsed, elevated, immortalized. It was everything Arya had been groomed to become. It would be the last piece to take from her. We go after it, I said. Kai looked at me, then really looked, like he was trying to figure out who I was becoming. You're not the same girl they pushed around, he said. I nodded. You made sure of that. No, he said. You did. The words made something shift in me. For a moment, I almost believed we could win not just against Arya, but against the roles we'd been forced to play. And maybe we could be more than allies in revenge. But then came the leak. Someone released a file dump onto the school's anonymous forum screenshots, message logs, edited clips that painted me as the manipulator, the girl pulling Kai's strings, the liar, the deceiver, the fake victim. All the messages between us were there, twisted, cropped. It looked like I had engineered everything. The sympathy I'd gained, gone in a flash. The admiration, replaced by suspicion. Even the professors looked at me differently. And I knew immediately, this wasn't Arya's style. It was Kai's. But I hadn't done it. I confronted him behind the theater curtain before rehearsal. Tell me you didn't. He didn't even blink. Why would I sabotage you? Because if people think I'm the villain, you get to stay clean. His eyes darkened. You really think I care about staying clean? I don't know what you care about anymore. He stepped closer. Too close. You want the truth, Lena? This story isn't big enough for both of us to be the mastermind. They needed someone to hate. I just made sure it wasn't me. The air between us crackled. This was the cost. Not trust. Not love. Not loyalty. The cost was becoming the thing they said I was. The villain. And suddenly, I wasn't sure I hadn't become her. Later that night, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at myself. The girl I saw didn't flinch anymore. She didn't smile unless it was for effect. She didn't hope. She planned. And when Kai messaged me, meet me tomorrow, the final move, I didn't ask what he meant. I just replied, I'm in. Because whether he was lying or not, whether he planned to destroy me or save me, I would not be the girl left crying on the ballroom floor. Not again. The legacy ball glittered like a lie dressed in gold. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto polished floors. Music swelled from the grand piano like a lullaby meant to keep everyone asleep. Students swirled in gowns and tuxedos, smiling, drinking, posing. And at the center of it all stood Arya, back in white. Always white. She wore her heartbreak like perfume, just subtle enough to pull sympathy like gravity. And it worked. The crowd circled her like she was a fallen angel, waiting for her halo to glue itself back on. But not tonight. Tonight, she didn't get to be the victim. I arrived late by design. In black velvet, no lace, no smile. Every inch of me was sharp edges and steady fire. Kai was already there. He didn't look at me when I entered, just raised his glass. One nod. It was time. The ceremony began. The headmaster stepped up to the podium, voice booming. This year's Legacy Award recipient is a young woman who exemplifies grace, excellence, and moral integrity, Arya's eyes shone. Lena Voss. The room didn't gasp. It froze. Then murmurs, whispers. Some claps. Scattered. Confused. Arya's smile faltered. Just slightly. Then she clapped too. But her hands shook. I walked to the stage with perfect posture. No nerves. Just ice in my veins. But as I stood beneath the lights, I didn't take the plaque. Instead, I turned to the crowd. I didn't come here to accept this award, I said. My voice didn't tremble. I came to tell the truth. You could have heard a pin drop. This school crowned the girl who smiled while she ruined others, who turned pain into performance, who made monsters out of anyone who got too close to her spotlight. I turned to Arya. You made me your villain because I threatened your script, but I'm not playing your part anymore. Her mask didn't crack, it shattered. You think you're innocent? She hissed, stepping toward me. You manipulated people. You leaked things. You humiliated me. You made me fight for air, I said, low. And when I learned to breathe fire, you cried that you got burned. The crowd had gone silent again, this time in reverence or horror, I couldn't tell which. But I wasn't finished. This isn't about good girls and bad ones. It's about the truth. And the truth is, she's lying, Arya spat. She and Kai, they planned this together, betwisted everything. All eyes turned to Kai. He stepped forward. Calm. Impeccable. Dangerous. And then she's right, he said. My blood turned to ash. We did plan it. We worked together, and I don't regret it. Gasps. Movement. The press cameras snapped to life. But, he added, looking at me, what Lena did, she did without my help. The last leak, the scholarship sabotage, the nomination scandal, that was all her. My throat closed. He was framing me, or was he protecting me? Taking the fall for his part? No. He was testing me, again. Giving me the same choice I'd had from the beginning. Play innocent. Or embrace the role. I stepped forward. Took the mic from the headmaster's frozen hands. Yes, I said. I did it, all of it. Gasps again. Teachers stood. Phones were raised. I was tired of being rewritten in her story, so I wrote my own. I turned back to Kai. And if he helped me, good. That makes two of us who stopped being pawns. Then I dropped the mic on the marble and walked off the stage. Not rushed. Not hiding. Powerfully. Finally, Arya stood frozen, surrounded by silence. Kai didn't follow me. That was the last test. And this time, I didn't care. Because I didn't need him to validate me. I had already become the version of myself they feared most. Unapologetic. The legacy ball ended in silence. No congratulations. No flowers. No after party. Just a hallway of stairs as I walked back to my dorm in heels that clicked like a countdown. By the time I reached my door, half the school had already seen the video. I was trending on the Academy's anonymous forum under one of two names, Queen. Monster. There was no in-between. The next morning, the headmaster summoned me. No press, no theatrics. Just a cold office and a folder that felt heavier than it should have. We can't expel you, he said, eyes unreadable. Too many alumni have already reached out curious, impressed. Some even said you're exactly the kind of disruptive brilliance this generation needs. I didn't smile. Not even a flicker. But, he continued, you've made enemies. Real ones. Not just students. Donors. Names with weight. You won't be protected here. He slid me a sealed envelope. Early graduation. If you want it. I left the room without giving him an answer. I found Kai on the rooftop, where we always met before everything went up in flames. He was leaning against the railing like nothing had changed. But everything had. Was it worth it? I asked. He didn't look at me. Just stared at the sky like he could still see stars through the clouds. She would have buried you alive, he said. I just gave you the shovel. I nodded. Quiet. You threw me under the bus. I made them choose a villain, he said. And you wore it better than I ever could. That stung. Because it was true. So, what now? I asked. You walk away clean? And I'd vanish before the final credits roll? Kai turned to me then, eyes soft in a way that almost made me forget who we were. No. I walk away knowing you don't need me anymore. Then he walked past me. Down the stairs. Out of sight. I never saw him again. I took the early graduation. Left before the walls could swallow me back up. No ceremony. No fanfare. Just a name on a list and an empty locker full of ghosts. Word spread, of course. Arya took a sabbatical health reasons, the school said. Eli apologized, in a note I never replied to. The faculty acted like none of it happened. And me? I didn't become some tragic villainess or misunderstood genius. I didn't fade into nothing either. I became a name people whispered, a cautionary tale, a legend depending on who you asked. Sometimes I wonder if Kai planned it that way from the start. If his real goal wasn't revenge on Area A, but liberation for me. And sometimes, late at night, I reread his last message. Just 3 words. Now it's yours. He didn't say what, but I know what he meant. The story. It's mine now. They told me the second male lead would bully me. They said I'd crumble, that I was just another background character in someone else's happily ever after. They were half right. I was a background character. But I didn't crumble. I rewrote the damn script. Funny how stories work. They never ask the villain why she snapped. They just assume the fall came from nowhere. That she woke up one day and chose chaos, destruction, vengeance. No one ever asks what it felt like to be erased slowly, lovingly, day after day by someone who smiled while doing it. No one wonders what happens to the girl who's always told to be smaller so someone else can shine. Until she decides she's done being small. I don't know where Kai went. Or if I'll ever see him again. Maybe he was just a mirror reflecting the version of me I was too afraid to become. But he was wrong about one thing. This wasn't about burning Area to the ground. It was about proving I could survive the fire and walk out carrying the match. They'll tell the story differently, of course. They'll say I was clever. Or cruel. That I was a threat. That I was unforgettable. That I was terrifying. But they'll say it with respect. And fear. And maybe that's enough. Because in the end they were wrong about the second male lead. But they were even more wrong about me. I wasn't meant to be the villain. I was always the main character. They just didn't see it until it was too late.